All right, everybody. Welcome our special guest to the show this week. Here to make our big announcement that we've been talking about all episode is my buddy, Brian Taggart. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
So, Taggart, we are recording this over Google Hangout, which is a little different than I usually do for Howdy Radio. So if it sounds a little different, that's why.
This is the first time I've used this.
Yeah. I think we sound pretty good as far as I can tell.
I like the format of it.
Yeah, this is the same thing we use for the Unknown podcast. It takes a minute, usually, like how we had a little problem tonight, like getting connected together. Like we have that same problem with the Unknown podcast. Like it just takes, for some reason, like a couple tries to like get everybody involved on the stream. It's weird that it works that way, but it does like every single time. So we are here to make a big announcement, as we've mentioned before. And so the big announcement is that here in about a month from now, me and Taggart are going to start the third podcast that Howdy Inc. is doing right now. And tell the folks what it's called.
As far as I know, it's called the Unknown Wrestling Podcast.
Yeah, so that's our working title. And I think it's going to end up just sticking the way that the Unknown Podcast kind of was just a working title, but then it sounded good, so it stuck. So I think that's what we're going to call it. We were watching the pay-per-view a couple weeks ago. What were we watching?
The Elimination Chamber.
Elimination Chamber. Oh, yeah. So we didn't actually say what the podcast is other than the name of it, right? Oh, yeah. So we're going to do a wrestling podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to get together. I don't know. Are we going to do it every week? I don't know that we'll be able to do it every week, but we'll try to like keep it every week, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of different ideas of what we want to talk about. Oh, but so we were watching Elimination Chamber. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. So we were watching Elimination Chamber, and after it was over, like we kind of just started kicking around the idea. We were like, we should like just do a wrestling podcast. That'd be really cool. And you're like, yeah. And then I was like, all right, you got to help me come up with a name, because that's never what I never come up with good names for these things. So then you said the Unknown or Wrestling Podcast. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. So I say we stick with that. Although it's kind of long. It's a long name. And it will be not easily searchable the same way that the Unknown Podcast is.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I say we go for it.
Yeah.
So what kind of ideas have we got? What's some ideas that you've come up with, like, that we want to talk about? Because I don't think we want to just talk about like wrestling news every week, because everybody does that. So I want to do something a little different.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, I think like first, we were talking about like kicking around how we got into it, and
Yeah.
when we first started watching it, and
Yeah. Like our introduction, like our first episode, we wanted to just kind of go through like our like backstory and like our history of like when we got into wrestling and like what we were watching and who we were watching and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've both been watching wrestling. I started watching when I was a kid. You were just as young as I was when you started watching it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've both been wrestling fans for a long time, and we love to talk about wrestling. So why not talk about it on a podcast? As if there is not enough wrestling podcast out there, because that's what the world needs, is another wrestling podcast.
Tag team puking the garbage can downstairs talking about Chris Jericho.
That's right. So now we'll just do that podcast style. Get drunk and talk about wrestling.
Yeah, I just gotta get some more beer.
Yeah. So we want to do something like, say what?
Now this is gonna be not family friendly, correct?
No, I'd like to do the family friendly thing with this show, but other than that, no, not at all.
Okay.
And only because I do this show with a kid. So the other ones are adults talking, so we can say whatever we want to say.
Fair enough.
That's how I see it, at least. I mean, unless you're opposed to where you're like, I don't want it to be that way, then whatever.
No, it works for me. I feel more looser that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
But yeah, we were kicking around ideas like, just things about wrestling, like toys and media and stuff like that.
Yeah, like an episode of like wrestling video games. And we can just talk about Fire Pro for an hour. That's all we got to do.
You do that already on Howdy.
I know. We've created another podcast just so I can talk about Fire Pro more. That's the reason for all of this. But stuff like I think that'll be a lot of fun, and then we'll still be able to talk about like what's going on in WWE, and of course WWE will always probably be the biggest main thing, of course. But like I want to talk about like the other wrestling feds that are out there too, like the indie feds and like Japan and stuff like that. I want to include all of that stuff too.
Well, and then pay-per-views come around, we can do predictions and reactions.
We do this thing when we get together and watch pay-per-views. We fill out a scorecard for the show. It's something that I follow this thing on Twitter, and they release these pro wrestling scorecards. It's PW Scorecards is their Twitter, and you print out this sheet that they make up that's all these different points of like who's going to win this match. Well, is something else going to happen in this match, or who's going to be the first one eliminated and all this stuff. And like you fill it out and they all have like point values to it. So we like kind of compete with each other just to see who can like get the most points. It really makes watching the pay-per-views a lot more fun, because I think so, at least, because you're like trying to do your best that you can on the scorecard. Like the last one for Elimination Chamber, I picked the winners of all the matches right, and that was the first time I've ever done that. So that was cool that I got a perfect score that way, at least. So we're going to kind of incorporate that into our podcast. We're going to like kind of compete with each other, like points wise, like a running point total on the podcast. So I think that might be like kind of a major part of what we do is these scorecard kind of things. I think that'll be fun. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to whoop you every single month at all of them.
Bring it, bitch. Oops.
Hey, you can't say that on Howdy Radio. There you go. Lane's going to be so mad.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
We can edit that part out.
No, I won't, though. Nope. So that's it. So that's our big announcement. New podcast coming to Howdy Inc. And we'll get it all set up, and we'll have a website, and we'll have a Twitter, and you'll follow us, and hopefully everybody will watch or listen or however we do it. I don't know if we'll probably be sometimes recording it like this, and sometimes recording it like in the same room as like me and Lane do for Howdy Radio. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll probably be going back and forth with that.
We could probably I just thought of this idea, like Sundays, like when I come over to watch the pay-per-view, we could do like a quick one or something before the event, or maybe one after the event or something.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So that's it. So we're gonna record the first episode after WrestleMania. We thought that would be a really good way to start off the show. So Howdy Radio will have the prediction spectacular, whatever we call it. And Taggart's going to be a special guest on that episode, kind of leading into the new podcast. So me, Lane, and Taggart will all give our predictions for that'll be that episode of Howdy Radio. And that'll release the day of WrestleMania. And then after WrestleMania, then me and him will record the first episode of the new show. And then it should be available, hopefully, the next day or a couple days after that, once iTunes approves it and all of that good stuff. So,
and I will be more involved on social media.
Yeah, you got to help me run the Twitter and all that stuff.
Sure.
Yep. So that'll be fun. And the ridiculous thing is, I just went through all that, and I'm not exactly sure what the date for WrestleMania is. I think it is. I think it's April 8th. I think it is.
Yeah. What is that first Sunday in April?
April 1st. Is it April 1st? Is it on April Fool's Day?
I'm not sure.
That's Easter, so I don't think it is.
I'm looking it up real quick.
All right. You think we would have had that information figured out? No, you wouldn't. If you ever know anything about our shows, no, we wouldn't know the date of when we're talking about. That's how we do
April
it.
8th.
All right, I got it right. I feel good that I got it right.
April 8th.
All right, so April 8th is when we will record our first episode, and it always takes a couple days, sometimes a few days, for it to go through the whole iTunes approval thing with it being a first episode. So hopefully within that first week, it'll be available. Here soon, we'll have the Twitter and everything running.
Oh, wait, I'm looking at the wrong month.
Oh,
there we go.
There we go. It's next month.
Yeah. I pulled up the little clock on my computer, and it said, wait a minute, that's Thursday. No, wait, that's Monday.
I hope WrestleMania ain't on a Thursday. I work doubles on Thursday.
I work.
And then we'll do maybe we'll do something for the night before WrestleMania too with the NXT show that they run.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Because I want to get together to watch that too. The whole WrestleMania weekend thing. I want to watch NXT also. All right, so check us out. That's about a month away then. Between now and then, we'll get everything up and running, and follow us on all of the social medias and all that good fun stuff. And then about a month from now, the new show will be out. So there you go. New show, new Howdy Inc. show, the Unknown Wrestling Podcast with Brandon and Brian. Should we put that as the title, with Brandon and Brian?
Sure.
Sounds kind of crappy.
Find on iTunes.
Yeah, it might be actually. Right on. All righty, man. Well, thanks for being the special guest on this episode.
Hey, no problem.
And we'll talk again in about a month on the other show.
Sounds good.
See ya.